The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the gentlelady from Indiana for yielding me the customary 30 minutes, and I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, there's really not much to say. If you were to listen to my friend on the other side, you'd think that these bills are going to change the world the second the ink dries, but they're not. This is just another week of wasted time. More of the same from the Republican leadership here in Congress that is completely out of touch with what the American people actually care about. H.R. 192 is another GOP attempt to meddle in D.C. politics. They spend more time worrying about Washington, D.C. than they do about their own constituents. And it's astounding to me that the party that claims to care about small government and local control wants to have the federal government tell local leaders here in D.C. how to run their local elections. Apparently, they're for local control unless it's local control by Democrats, in which case, never mind. And to hear anybody on the Republican side talk about election integrity is rich, especially from a party that is filled with election deniers. We are also here to consider H.R. 4763, a bill that provides an upper hand to the crypto industry instead of meaningfully addressing gaps in digital asset regulation. And finally, we will meet on H.R. 5403, a bill that prevents the U.S. from exploring digital currency. Now, I know my friends on the other side of the aisle are afraid of innovation, but 130 countries representing 98% of global GDP are looking into digital currency. Maybe, just maybe, it's something we should look into as well. Unfortunately, I think some of my friends on the other side want to go back to stone tablets. It's our job in Congress to address the privacy concerns, not to bury our heads in the sand and pretend like the world isn't moving forward. Mr. Speaker, it's all stunts instead of solutions, extremism over bipartisanship, and it's really a shame. This narrow majority could have given us a chance to work together in a bipartisan way. But instead, my friends over on the other side of the aisle have pandered to their most extreme members over and over and over again. They let the extremists kick out their own speaker. They let the extremists dictate the agenda on the House floor. They let the extremists take down 7 rule votes since January 2023, a stunning indictment of their ability to get anything done. And speaking of indictments, Republicans are skipping their real jobs to take day trips up to New York to try to undermine Donald Trump's criminal trial. No time to work with Democrats, but plenty of time to put on weird matching cult uniforms and stand behind President Trump with their bright red ties and like pathetic props. Maybe they want to distract from the fact that their candidate for president has been indicted more times than he's been elected. Maybe they don't want to talk about the fact that the leader of their party is on trial for covering up hush money payments to a porn star for political gain, not to mention 3 other criminal felony prosecutions he's facing. Now, I understand why my Republican friends want to distract from Donald Trump. They don't want to talk about how Trump had the worst jobs record since the Great Depression, how he sold out our allies and empowered our adversaries. So they bring silly things like this to the floor to deflect blame and distract from the fact that they have no real vision, just division, and no real plans to make life better for the American people. And with that, I reserve my time.
The chair would like to remind members to refrain from engaging in personalities towards presumed nominees for the office of the president. The gentleman from Massachusetts reserves. The gentlewoman from Indiana is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd just like to note that the bury the head in the sand approach is the very approach that Chairman Gensler has been taking with regard to the regulation of digital assets. Our colleagues seem to be less concerned about getting a regulatory framework for consumer protection and are hurrying to put in a central bank digital currency for digital surveillance. With that, I reserve.
The gentlewoman from Indiana reserves. The gentleman from Massachusetts is recognized.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, a few moments ago, I was admonished for stating the simple fact that the former president was indicted by a grand jury and is on trial in a court of law. That's not my opinion. It's just the truth. So I have a parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, has the chair determined it's unparliamentary to state a fact?
The chair is not in a position to determine the veracity of remarks made on the floor.
Well,
that members must avoid personalities.
yeah, well, that's unbelievable. Last week during debate, a Republican member of this House said, and I quote, "Watch the former President of the United States being hauled into court day after day with a sham trial," end quote. He wasn't admonished. I just referenced the same trial, and I was. So, Mr. Speaker, I have to ask a further parliamentary inquiry.
The gentleman will state his inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, is it correct that members of Congress can mention the trial of the presumptive nominee for president, call it a sham, and question the integrity of the judge, but a reference to the mere existence of that same trial without any characterization that's out of order?
The chair will not issue an advisory opinion.
Well, one last parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Speaker. Is this restriction originally founded, at least in part, on the principle in Jefferson's manual that, quote, in Parliament, to speak irreverently or seditiously against the king is against order, end quote? Is that what this is about? I have Jefferson's manual here.
Members must avoid personalities in debates. The chair will direct members to Rule 17 in Section 370 of the House Rules and Manual.
Yeah. So it is, in fact, based on what's in Jefferson's manual. Mr. Speaker, Donald Trump might want to be a king, but he's not a king. He is not a presumptive king. He's not even the president. He's a presumptive nominee. And I know you're trying to do your job and follow precedent, but frankly, at some point, it's time for this body to recognize that there is no precedent for this situation. We have a presumptive nominee for president facing 88 felony counts, and we're being prevented from even acknowledging it. These are not alternative facts. These are real facts. A candidate for president of the United States is on trial for sending a hush money payment to a porn star to avoid a sex scandal during his 2016 campaign, and then fraudulently disguising those payments in violation of the law. He's also charged with conspiring to overturn the election. He's also charged with stealing classified information, and a jury has already found him liable for rape in a civil court. And yet, in this Republican-controlled House, it's okay to talk about the trial, but you have to call it a sham.
We take down his words.
It's okay to say the jury is rigged.
Mr. Speaker, I demand that his words be taken down.
It's okay to say the court is corrupt.
The gentleman will suspend.
But not Trump is corrupting the rule of law.
Indiana, I demand that his words be taken down. The gentleman from Massachusetts will be seated. The clerk will report the words.
It's going to take some time, so let's just hang out here. We got to figure out exactly.